So, as the trade deadline approaches, the Toronto Raptors, to me, are one of the most interesting teams in the NBA due to their unique and particular current situation. The fact that they have two assets in Kyle Lowry and Norman Powell, who are both on expiring contracts, and that they could go really in either direction, whether it be trading Powell and Lowry for future assets or keeping them both and even gearing up for a playoff push. So there's a lot of interesting places the Raptors can go in terms of what they do at this trade deadline. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at what they should do at the trade deadline and just talking about the Raptors in general. So this season, the Raptors, they have not been great. They are 17 and 24, though not all of that is their fault. They have been bombarded with injuries and protocol and that sort of thing, which has cost them a few games. And they've just been very unlucky in terms of their expected win-loss versus their actual win-loss, because their expected win-loss is 21 and 20. That's what the record is supposed to be according to their net rating, which is 12th at 30th. But their actual record is 17 and 24. Just last night against the Jazz, Siakam missed a game-tying three, and they've missed quite a few game winners that have gone in and out. And just a few games like Tony Snell hit a buzzer beater against them. They've just been quite unlucky, in my opinion. So they're definitely a good team and a team that's better than their record. But with that being said, we're past the halfway point of the season, and they're in 11th place in the East. Though it's not like it's not retrievable. If we look at the Eastern Conference standings, the Raptors are in 11th, and they're only 4 games back of the 5 seed Hawks, who are 21 and 20. And they're only 4.5 games back of the Miami Heat, who are the 4 seed. So that's not too many games, but time is sort of running out, and they need to get healthy, and they need to get everyone back so they can make a run. But that also being said, they're only 2 games ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are in 13th. So they could easily go the opposite direction. So which direction should they go? It's a pretty interesting conversation. So if they were to maybe lean into not tanking, but not really going for the playoffs, maybe trading some assets, that sort of thing, what could they do? So the first guy is Kyle Lowry, the greatest Raptor of all time, in my opinion. And, they could easily trade him. He's on an expiring contract for $30 million. It's a lot of money, but it's not untradeable. And there are some teams that would really, really want him. With Lowry, there have been reports that he's not going to be traded, but I'll believe it after the trade deadline. I think there's still definitely a chance that he could be traded, and it does make a lot of sense. If they were to trade him, he would really choose where he would want to go. They wouldn't trade him to a lottery team. They'd trade him to a good team where his bird rights have value. And the team that I think of, and that I think most people have thought of, is the Philadelphia 76ers. It makes a lot of sense on both ends. Lowry is from Philadelphia, and they could really use him. There's some other teams like the Nuggets, maybe the Mavericks, maybe. But the team that makes the most sense is the Sixers. If we were to talk about a potential trade, it would be Danny Green's $15 million, a few small contracts like Mike Scott, and maybe a few other guys. And then in terms of assets, it would probably be Tyrese Maxey, and then 2 of Thibault and 2 first-round picks. So it would probably be 3 assets. So 3 of Maxey, Thibault, and the 2 first-round picks so that the Sixers could trade. I think it would probably be Maxey, Thibault, and a first. That seems fair on both ends. The Raptors get a promising young player in Maxey, Thibault, who they could really transform if they could improve his offense, because his defense is great. And then a first-round pick, whereas the Sixers get Kyle Lowry, who can really, really help them out this year with his playmaking, his defense. He just fits the culture there. He can play with Embiid, he can play with Simmons, he can play with Tobias Harris, and it gives them a really good, nice starting 5. They do give up Maxey and maybe Thibault and maybe a few picks, but Daryl Morey is not shy in about trading assets and going all in, and I think Kyle Lowry definitely boosts their championship equity. So that's a trade that could make sense for the Raptors and the Sixers if the Raptors would trade Kyle Lowry, but they might just keep him because he's still a very good player. The other player that they could trade, they could trade anyone, but that's realistic, is Norman Powell. This season, he's playing great. He's averaging almost 20 points. In the last few games, he's averaging almost 30 points. He's shooting like 44% from three, and he's making $11 million. So he's definitely on a tradable contract that the Raptors could trade, and lots of teams would be interested in him. Almost every team can trade for him, and he could help almost every team with his scoring and his shooting and his ability to get to the rim and to finish at the rim. A team that I think about is the Denver Nuggets because they need a bit of help. They have young players like RJ Hampton and Bol that the Raptors might be interested in. They have Gary Harris's contract. They have Will Barton's contract. So they can definitely make a move. And if you think of Powell and the Nuggets, his ability to cut off ball play off of Jokic, play off of Murray, space the floor, he could definitely really help out the Nuggets as he could help out some other teams. As I said, only making 11 mil, almost every team could trade for him. So the Raptors could definitely also trade him if they would want to, get some more assets. And then if you were to think about if they were to trade one of Lowry or Powell, I don't think they would trade both of them, but I could be wrong. They would have a starting lineup next year of Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby would be the three, and then would be the core three, and then one of Lowry or Powell at the shooting guard, and then they could sign a center in free agency or with their draft pick, which would be probably in the lottery if they were to make these trades. They could get another good player there and be well geared for the future. So that's interesting to think about. So if we think about the Raptors actually trying to win this year and making a playoff push, they could definitely make the playoffs and definitely the play-in. They're only 1.5 games back of the Bulls, who are in 10th, and that puts them in the play-in. So that's definitely doable. They could make a trade for a center, which is the biggest weakness on their team. They have Chris Boucher, but more of a starting center who's a bit stronger physically could really help them out, whether that be through a trade or through a buyout. Like, they could really use a guy like Andre Drummond, but the trade just doesn't work for him, so it would have to be a buyout. And if Drummond gets bought out, like, would you rather play for the Raptors or the Lakers? So I don't think they'd be able to get him, but maybe trading for, just a solid center like JaVale McGee could really help them out, who could play 25 minutes a night and roll to the rim and protect the basket a little bit. That's really the type of thing they need. And then they just need a bit of luck to get healthy and to stop missing game winners and that sort of thing. And put that all together, and they're still a really good team. Between how good they can be defensively and the playmakers they have on offense, they're a team that I don't think any team would want to face in the playoffs. I think they're definitely beatable, and what seed could they get? They could get as high as the 5 seed. I suspect they would be in the play-in though, and they'd be facing either the Sixers or the Nets if they were to get out of the play-in. And I think both of those teams would probably beat the Raptors, but the Raptors have beaten both of those teams this season, and I think the Nets and the Sixers would much rather face like the Bulls or the Pacers, to be honest. So if the Raptors do decide to make moves to try and make a playoff push and a playoff run this season, it's definitely doable, and they're definitely a good team still. So that's all the Raptors. As for what I think they should do, if I was the Raptors GM, I would probably trade one of Lowry or Powell if there was a good offer out there. And I'd probably lean towards Powell because I think he's sort of a candidate to get like a way too big contract in free agency after a good season. I think he's definitely a really good player, but he's not going to shoot 44% from three for the rest of his career. And I think if they could get like a good first round pick and a young asset for him, and sell high on him, that would definitely be ideal. And then the Raptors go into next season with probably re-signing Lowry on, not 30 mil a year, not 5 mil a year, somewhere in between, a fair contract, getting a center in free agency, and then getting a pick in what I've been told is a really good draft. The Raptors could be looking good next year, because this year I don't really think it's going to happen in terms of winning a playoff series. They could definitely get into the playoffs, but playing in Tampa, they don't have their home crowd. They're basically on a 72 game away trip, so a road trip. So it's sort of rough for them this season. The circumstances just aren't right. So I would probably trade one of Lowry or Powell to get an asset, but I could definitely see them going the other way. Anyways, that's the end of this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.